everybody. Welcome to episode 9 of CCFR Radio on the Air. I'm your host, Rod Giltaka. Thanks for joining me again. Hopefully you had a great Christmas and a great New Year. Today on the show, we're going to talk about where you can find the CCFR this spring. We are going to be everywhere, lots of shows, and we're bringing some cool things with us. So we're going to address that with Ms. Wilson when she's on. Pierre Poilievre and the CPC are roaring back in the polls, and that's really great news for licensed gun owners, especially if an election happens in the spring. As well, our friend Gary Anandasangri, the current Minister of Public Safety here in Canada, also known as Big Gary, as we like to call him, is back in the news. And again, it's for all the wrong reasons. Anyway, all that and more, CCFR Radio starts right now.
CCFR Radio on the Air is brought to you by Wild TV Plus, the best hunting, fishing, and outdoor content available anywhere, anytime, on any device. Visit wildtvplus.ca.
All right, we are back. Now, before we move on to the next two segments, we're going to have Tracy Wilson on for those two segments, but I've got some information in this one that I need to share with you. I guess we'll start it out by saying, hopefully you all had some time to spend with people that are important to you over the holidays, got some time to rest. Personally, I had a little bit of time to rest, but not as much as I would have liked because the CCFR is coming out with a massive project hopefully by the end of this month, by the end of January. So if you're keeping an eye on the CCFR social medias, or you're watching the CCFR Radio podcast on YouTube, so that you'd go over to the CCFR YouTube channel and you'd see the sort of extended version of this television show, you'll kind of get a lot more details on what we're doing because we obviously have more time. It doesn't have to fit in 22 and a half minutes like it does for television. But we're trying to get this really big project out. I think you'll be impressed with it, and I think it's going to make a difference. But anyway, regardless, we're fighting an adversarial government, and the fight rages on. We can't just sit here and take it. The other reason I didn't get a lot of rest is I started filming for season 2 of my hunting show, which is here on Wild TV called My Best Hunt. If you haven't seen it, you should check it out. It's an in-studio situation where hunters from television or YouTube come and tell me the story of an exciting hunt that they were engaged in or their best hunt, and they bring the B-roll of the actual hunt. So they tell us the story, kind of a nice warm environment, and then we show some footage of the actual hunt. So it's the only show of its kind. If you like listening to hunting stories, then you're going to love it. And I've had a lot of people reach out and say they like it, but that's not for me to judge. Anyway, season 2, we're filming for it right now, and it's going to be coming out this April on Wild TV, so make sure you check that out. If you want to see all the episodes from season 1, you can find them on YouTube. Go to YouTube, search for My Best Hunt. You'll find the channel. The logo, I think, is on the thumbnail kind of thing, and all 13 episodes of season 1 are there on the My Best Hunt YouTube channel, so you can watch them all in preparation for season 2. By the way, I'll tell you, season 2 is going to be better than season 1 because we've done all these studio upgrades and we really understand the show. It's going to be really, really cool. So I am quite excited, but that's been a lot of work as well. Now, I want to mention something to you. I want to ask you for some advocacy. One of the things that the CCFR did in 2025 and will continue to do in 2026 is head municipalities off at the pass that are cooperating with the federal government. I got to be quick. What the federal government is doing right now, Gary Anandasangri and the rest of them are doing is they're bribing, I guess you could say, in some manner of speaking, municipalities with infrastructure money, other federal dollars that they will give municipalities in order to participate in the gun grab, in the buyback program, okay, the confiscation program. So a lot of, and I think Tracy and I talked about this maybe in the last episode or the one before, a lot of these municipalities don't know anything about the buyback. They're like, oh, this sounds great. Increase public safety and get money for our municipality. Awesome, where do we sign? But they don't understand what's really going on. So just like in Charlottetown, just like in Cape Breton, we have to meet up with City Council. We have to let them know that there's another side of the story, the factual side actually, in order to head this off at the pass, or the feds are going to get a foothold and they're going to roll this thing out, and it's not going to be good for anybody other than them politically. Okay, so if you hear that something's going on in your municipality, reach out to the CCFR, info@ccfr.ca, and let us know where you are, what city council, what's going on, and we will reach out and make sure that we're coordinating something with you in order to push back against this. Anyway, if you can just keep that in the back of your mind, I'd greatly appreciate it. All right, that's all I wanted to cover. When we come back, we're going to have Tracy Wilson on, and we're going to have some interesting stuff to talk about. So stick with us. All right, we are back, and via the internet, we have Tracy Wilson of the CCFR, I think. Wilson!
How's it going, Giltaca? Happy New Year.
It's going all right. Happy New Year to you. Did you have a good Christmas?
I did. It was kind of quiet, stuck around home, spent some time with the kids and the grandson. But yes, it was absolutely lovely. How about you?
It was okay. I got a little bit of time off, but not a lot because we got a lot of things cooking. So
we sure do.
Yeah, and we got a lot of work to do. So it's I did get a few days off though.
Good. Excellent.
Awesome. Possum. Okay. So we have a fair bit of stuff to go through. Kind of a heads up. We are going to talk a little bit about some general politics in this episode, in this segment and the next. But the reason is that these are factors that affect licensed gun owners. Like we try to stay away from general politics, although in our situation, it's unavoidable, unfortunately. So anyway, there's a lot more going on even than what we're going to talk about, but there's some moving parts here, so we should cover it. Okay, before we get into the politics, there are a number of shows that you and I are going to be attending, and that the CCFR is going to be attending, and there's a reason why we're going to talk about it. So why don't you start your list, and I'll finish my list.
Okay, on my list, I've got February 20th to the 22nd in beautiful Calgary, Alberta, is the Calgary Boat and Outdoor Show at the Stampede BMO Center. The Edmonton Boat and Outdoor Show, March 19th to the 22nd at the Edmonton Expo Center. Of course, Toronto Sportsman Show right here in Ontario, March 19th to the 22nd at the International Center. And I think you've got some BC shows coming up.
I do. So they are the BC Sports and Wilderness Show at the TradeX in Abbotsford on March 7th and 8th. The BC Outdoor Show in Chilliwack, British Columbia on March 14th and 15th. And then I will be with you at the Toronto Sportsman Show in Mississauga, the 19th through the 22nd of March. I won't. I don't think I don't know. Are either of us going to be there on the 19th? I certainly won't be, but I'll be there over the weekend for sure. Now,
yeah, I'm not entirely sure, but yeah, we'll be there all weekend.
That's right. So sorry, but the reason why we're talking about this is A, the CCFR is going to be everywhere again this year. B, I don't know what's going to happen to my brain after March because I got to show every single weekend all over the place. And C, probably the most important thing is the CCFR teamed up with Strikeman, and we've got the new CCFR laser range. We have a few of them, and they're going to be at all of these shows, or I think all of them. And they're going to be free. And basically, you're going to get a chance to shoot a handgun and challenge your friends and whatever in these beautiful laser ranges, which are going to be at these shows, no cost whatsoever. So special thanks to Adam over at Strikeman for helping the CCFR make that happen. It's a little bit of an attraction for people to play for free at the shows that the CCFR is attending.
It's a lot of fun. Huge thanks to Strikeman. And I'm going to challenge you at Toronto Sportsman Show, just so you know.
Yeah, it sounds good. I don't think you'll win. Okay, so we've got a lot of stuff to cover. So let's, you know what? I've shot a handgun probably 3 times in the last 3 years. So you know what? You've got a good shot at it.
Yeah, well, we'll see. I guess people will just have to show up and see who wins.
Yeah, that's the pressure's on now. Okay, well, let's get into our conversation about some of our favorite people. We'll start with Mr. Gary Anandasangri, the current, the most recent Minister of Public Safety. He's in the news again.
Yeah, Big Gary, our good friend, he's making the news again. Black Locks reporter had a story out this morning talking about his work with foreign interference. So back in 2024, the Liberals put forward Bill C-70, which of course was, the intent of it was to crack down on foreign interference. They're supposed to put together a foreign interference registry. And of course, put forward some penalties for people who are acting as agents of other countries and meddling in Canadian democracy. Well, very quietly back in November, Gary put forward some new measures that he would like to include, which of course softens the sentencing or the fine for foreign interference to as little as $50. So I'm sure that'll be a big incentive to those foreign actors. He also is saying that it wouldn't be right to put names on the foreign interference registry out of privacy concerns. I'm using air quotes for those listening. It's funny, this government has a track record of protecting the worst people in society while at the same time attacking Canada's most law-abiding citizens. So way to go, Big Gary, you're making news again.
Yep. And for all the wrong reasons. What a deterrent, hey? I could now collaborate with foreign entities and trying to undermine Canada on any level. And then all I've got to worry about on the other side is maybe a $50 fine and no one will know my name.
Yeah, that's right.
They're looking to spend it, and this is why it matters. They're looking to spend $1 billion, which is going to rip off almost all gun owners, but spend $1 billion taking licensed gun owners' guns away and then making everyone else's guns illegal, for the ones that people don't turn in because they're not going to get paid, most likely. And then when it comes to foreign interference, like $50 fine, and we'll keep your name out of the. Nobody will know your name. I don't know.
Why?
Well, yeah. I mean, at some point you got to be like, what is going on here? But anyway, more people need to ask that question. Like, what is going on here? And I need to stop the Liberals from doing these things by making sure that they don't get into office. So anyway, pretty interesting. Now, the one thing we've only got about 50 seconds left here, but the one thing I did want to mention is Gary Ananda Sangari is under fire. The Liberal government is under fire. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in the next segment, but right now is the time to go against the buyback. The buyback is flailing. Their other policies are flailing. And I'm just mentioning it, that the CCFR is coming out with a project, hopefully rolled out by the end of this month. We are going full attack on the Liberals.
Yes.
Now is the time to do it. Now is the time to strike. So the CCFR will be there, probably the second biggest project we've ever done. So make sure that you stay tuned for that. Anyway, okay. We've got more to talk about when we come back, so stick with us. All right, we're back. Now, we're really kind of going to get into some general politics here. And again, it always comes back around to general politics in Canada affects our ability to legally own and use firearms, and certainly our ability to push back this buyback program and maybe hang on to what we've got. So I think we're going to start with what's the situation, Ms. Wilson, with Mark Carney and his status, especially in compared to the Conservative Party of Canada.
Well, the House has been not sitting for some time now. Of course, over the Christmas holidays, they'll go back to their constituencies. They will be back here in Ottawa in a matter of weeks. But we've seen some of the polling coming out. And of course, the Conservatives are neck and neck with the Carney Liberals. And I think the honeymoon is over. Carney is, he's one of those guys that sort of overpromises and then underdelivers. And that is going to cost him in the long run. You'll remember that he's been flying all around the world and, trying to get all these promises from other places. He's failed to make any headway with the American president, our number one trading partner. And he ran an election and won an election on promising that he was the only guy that could deal with these things. And so far, he's been striking out, and not for lack of trying, but he's not getting the job done. So this doesn't bode well for the prime minister, because photo ops can only take you so far, as we know. And of course, the Poilievre Conservatives are coming back up in the polls. The leadership vote will be later this month. It's just a really crazy time in politics. And even Liberal pundits are talking about how we could be looking at an election as early as this coming spring, if not the fall for sure. So I don't know. It's just crazy time.
Well, the interesting thing and how this sort of ties in is Pierre Poilievre has promised to roll all of this stuff back to make gun
Yes.
laws in Canada make sense and to increase public safety because that has never been worse. And then, of course, after the election, the Conservatives came up short and the Liberals and unfortunately their partners in the mainstream media continued to attack Poilievre as individually, right? Trying to oust him as
Yeah.
leader because that would put us at a disadvantage in that we would have a leadership race, let's say in the spring. I mean, what a great time for the Liberals to call an election. Plus,
Oh
Poilievre
yeah.
is the only one that actually could win. So, interestingly enough, all this pressure on him to be ousted as leader actually failed. You see Poilievre bouncing back. There's a big resurgence. And this
Mhm.
is really important. And one of the reasons why I wanted to bring it up, and we've sort of talked about this before, but this is critical. Poilievre as a leader, people say, oh, you lost, you blew this huge lead. He didn't blow a huge lead. He was sitting at somewhere around, the Conservative Party at 42.5% of the vote. And
Yeah.
then through the election had 41.5 or something, numbers in that order.
Yeah.
But
That's
this
exactly
attack
right.
on
That's
him as
exactly it.
leader, it started 6 months before the election. Somehow, whoever had $4 million to dump into the mainstream media on Poilievre attack ads for the 6 months preceding the election, you wonder who's got $4 million to throw at that, right? And who knew that there was going to be election in 6 months. But anyway, he's had all that pressure on him. And one of the things that you had said, I saw you on, I think, the Elevate podcast, and you said, okay, well, the CCFR was the 7th largest third-party advertiser in the past election. That's true. And there was nobody ahead of us that was right-leaning. And I said earlier, actually, no, there was one group that was right-leaning that spent more money than we did. But think about that. Out of the 6 third-party advertisers, 5 of them were all left-leaning. 5 of them were all in the tank for Liberals. The
Yeah. All the big
odds,
spenders.
the
Mhm.
opposition that Poilievre has been pushing against is massive. And he's still having a resurgence now. So what we said before, Poilievre being the only one that could do it, I think is actually holding true.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I know I saw Andrew Scheer put out a little video and he was talking about some of this, the way the mainstream media puts their finger on the scale, tips the scales in favor of the Liberals. And they were talking about recently, a journalist was asking the Prime Minister at a press conference, when was the last time he spoke to the American president? Which is a very valid question, considering everything going on. And Carney kind of flipped it off and said, who cares? And, went on a rant about he'll talk to him when it's, in due time, on his time. I mean, thousands of jobs have been lost. I think to some people, they do care, right? But the coverage from the media was about how Poilievre's Conservatives were attacking or pouncing on the Prime Minister for his who cares comment, instead of on the fact that the Prime Minister said, who cares? Which is pretty big deal, right? So it's just a small example of how they've got their toe on the scale, and it's been this way all the way through. My best advice I can give is to Conservatives to stop taking advice from Liberals on who should lead your party. There's a very valid reason why they don't want Poilievre as your leader, and that's because they think he's going to win. So, I think it's pretty obvious to anybody watching.
Yeah, well, this resurgence kind of proves it.
Yes.
And, it's funny because Carney was voted by some segment of Canadians, voted in specifically to deal with the American president. And then 10 months later, he's like, well, who cares? Because he's got nothing on that front.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. So anyway, the reason why all this stuff is relevant is if there is an election, and I've said this, how many? This is 4 elections, right? Well, three that we've been around. The next election, if we are able to get a Conservative minority or majority government, now we can start turning the ship around and start pointing is everything going to get solved right away? No, but we're turning the ship around and we're heading back in the other direction. So Anyway,
Yes.
just kind of interesting. So you and I will be in Calgary in a couple of weeks for the Conservative Party of Canada policy convention, where
Mhm.
Poilievre will face a leadership review. We got about 30 seconds left.
Yeah, that's right. So we'll be there. We'll be bringing the latest, greatest news to you live as it happens. Make sure you follow us on all our social media. But I'm pretty confident that Poilievre is going to survive that leadership test, and we'll see. I, for one, cannot wait for the House to return.
Yeah, well, and the drama will start up again. Anyway, all right. Well, thank you for the update, and I guess we will see you in the next one.
All right, we'll see you then.
All right, we are back. Now, I've only got you for about 1 minute and 30 seconds as usual, the big crunch at the end. But the most important thing I need to share with you is Field Officer of the Month for December 2025. You know, you take a couple of days off and you just completely lose your mind. But anyway, Field Officer of the Month for December 2025 is our great friend Jason Warren from Quebec. Thank you so much, Jason, for all your work. This is the second time we've awarded it to Jason. Because like a lot of our volunteers, he's just an outstanding person. So in case anyone forgets what you get for Field Officer of the Month, you get a year's free subscription from one of the best guys in the industry, Donovan Dewis over there at CATF, Canadian Access to Firearms, free subscription. You also get a $100 promo code for the CCFR online store, and you get mentioned here on the television show and on our podcast, the CCFR radio podcast. So speaking of which, if you ever want kind of the longer discussion version of this show, check out the CCFR radio podcast on YouTube, Rumble, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all the things, because we go into a lot more detail on that show than we can in television format because it's fast, right? Here we are with 30 seconds left. So anyway, I want to thank everyone for watching these 5 seasons. And I want to thank everyone for their support. If you're supporting the CCFR, who is Canada's gun lobby, I really appreciate it. If you're thinking of supporting us, you can go to ccfr.ca, click Why Join, find out all the things that we do and what we've done. Other than that, thanks everyone for watching. Take care, and we will see you in the next one.